Welcome back to the Legal Weekly Wine, where we talk about the week's hottest legal topics. I'm Virginia Tehrani.
And I'm Chelsey Rogers.
We're with Tehrani Law, LLC, because you never need a lawyer.
Till you do.
All right, today it is still April. We're still in April. Next week, don't forget that we're taking a quick break.
Yes.
And we'll be back the following. But this week, we have two topics that we think are the hottest.
They're hot, for sure.
They are hot because we are going to say two words that I think you will stay tuned for listening. Fox News and abortion.
Yes, I think technically that was 3, but...
But is Fox News considered one word because it's
like
a proper noun, or is it 2?
You might be right. Fox News, like, as a...
I mean, I know they're separate words, but
Let
is
us
it...
know.
Yeah.
But yes, okay.
Grammatically speaking, is it 1 or 2 words? I don't know, but it's
We can start,
one
sentence
name.
diagramming and get it out and really... I loved that.
I don't think people know how to do that anymore.
I did learn how to do that, and I thought it was the best thing ever. And it's like, I was a nerd. They should have known that when
like
I was
graphing.
I was like, I would love to diagram a sentence, actually.
So Chelsea's going to tell us the next time we're on air, whether it's
Yeah, I'll do my homework.
2 or
I'll
3
come
words.
But that's a lot of hot topic right there.
It is. Just those two by themselves are hot topics.
Lots of feelings.
Yeah. Okay. So lots of personal feelings we know all around. We understand. We have our own personal feelings, some of which we'll share, some of which we won't.
Yeah.
We know you're going to have personal feelings on this.
Absolutely.
Happy to listen to them, but please know we're trying not to talk about personal feelings on it, but just law. Like, how is it working legally? What does it mean? What might happen with it? That's what we're trying to talk about, rather than whether abortion should be legal or not. So that is going to be a question we're not addressing.
Look, legal analysis versus Chelsea's queen for a day, right? Like, they're very different things.
Right, they are. So Chelsey will do her own.
Look.
Maybe we could do a side program.
Yes.
Chelsea's opinions.
Truly?
No, Chelsea's vibes.
Chelsea's vibes.
The new show. We could do the new show. Chelsea's vibes.
I don't know how long that could be on the air because filtering myself is not my strongest suit.
We'll be shut down.
Truly.
Yeah, so
be an injunction for that.
There really could be, instead of injunctive relief with the FDA and abortion pills, it will be injunctive relief against Chelsey.
That'd be
We'll
funny.
be sued for millions.
Truly.
For defamation and everything else.
That's fair point.
Defamation, injunctions, both that we're talking about this week.
Look, I'm still gobsmacked that you are so rational and controlled on here. I say the first thought that comes to my brain, and people are so mad at you on the internet.
No, I really do have some haters.
They get so mad at her. And I'm just saying the most asinine things and nobody cares, which is kind of upsetting for me. I like a reaction.
Chelsea's the one looking for reactions, not me. I'm just trying to tell stories. I'm trying to tell you how things were, not my opinions about them one way or the other, but how they were.
Clearly I like attention. I was a theater kid. I went to law school. Now I have a podcast. Be so for real.
Yes. Chelsey is the drama queen. So give her drama, not me, if you're going to give someone drama.
Maybe they're scared they're going to get it back because I'll match the energy. I will do that.
Maybe I'm scared you're going to get it back. Maybe the universe knows that it should be me and not you.
Honestly, fair point. That's fair. I'll give you that one.
So we're going to drink to those haters because it is the weekly wine. We are doing a menage a trois drink, not an actual menage a trois. That is the brand.
I didn't take French, but I know what that means.
Right. Isn't there yeah. No. So, yes, the brand of wine that we're drinking is Menage a Trois. It is a sweet collective Moscato from California.
Love that.
So premium grapes ripened in the California sun. Sweet wine bursting with ripe peach and bright tropical fruit flavors. So we do apparently really like peach on the show.
We do.
So I've realized that we really are drinking a lot of Moscatos and sweet wines and a lot of Cabernets. Most likely because that's what I prefer to drink. And when I went out to buy wine for the show, that is what I gravitated toward, is what I like to drink.
No complaints over here.
So Chelsea's been enjoying them. Do suggest some other wines. I think we're going to try to at least do like a couple different Pinots, some Merlots, something out there. I don't love Malbecs, but I'm happy to try one.
Okay.
There are a lot of other wines out there. We are happy to take your suggestions. We're happy to try them. Grab your favorite glass of wine. Join us because we're going to toast and then talk about a couple of very
You can tell me what's going on with Fox.
difficult questions. Yeah, we're going to talk about Fox, and I need a drink. All right. Cheers, everyone.
That was a good one. Oh, I like that a lot.
Oh, I like that too. That's almost like drinking a peach.
Yes, it's so sweet. It's like juice. See, this is the wine that gets you into trouble because it tastes like nothing.
You just keep drinking.
That's my problem. I love a good sweet wine, but the problem is you just guzzle it, and I'm like, the bottle's gone.
No, it's true.
That's what
That's very true.
because this, okay, and this is my theory about it, as
really
someone who
good.
is not like a sommelier. Quality wine tastes good with food. Like with food.
There's my lipstick all over there.
Sweet wine tastes good on its own. So you just drink it like it's a normal beverage. That's what I've realized. Like red wines that have like complex flavors taste good if you eat with them, but you wouldn't drink it on its own. Most of them, I feel like.
No, it's
like
best
complimentary.
paired.
Right. This, put it in a Capri Sun and like have a good day. Like
yeah, and because it's even a little fizzy, it's got bubbles.
Yes.
So even with that, and the sweetness scale is between medium sweet and sweet. So there's even a little scale on the bottle that says this. So it really is as if we're having dessert for happy hour, which is fine. It's not lunch. So anyway, enjoy your glass of wine, and let's do Fox News first.
Yes, because we've kind of had like an anticlimactic.
Oh my gosh, where is the trial?
I feel like we keep saying this for like with the the trial that wasn't like
right? Yeah, Elon Musk actually had a trial, but it was like
yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow's was interesting. I did enjoy that one.
That one I think had some more
legally speaking, on an interest level of a legal analysis by an attorney who enjoys the law. Yes. It was an interesting case.
It's okay. I was listening to our Tuesday episode on the Law Unscripted, and I heard myself say, I'd just really like to, handle a murder case one day. And I was when I heard myself say it, I knew what I meant, but the way it sounded, I was like, not that I want someone to get murdered, but it would be a legally interesting case.
Yes, and I think that's why a lot of these things are being taken out of context of what we're saying. Is like they're little clips, but then there's the whole clip of we're like in the law.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't find plumbing quite interesting, but a lot of people would who do plumbing. So this is the area of work we chose.
Yes.
So yes, for Fox News, dud.
So no trial.
No trial. They even sat the jury. They had a full 12. Now, I don't know why 12, because it was a civil case. It's Delaware. So here's where we get to the state,
like weird
different
stuff.
State questions is maybe it is 12 jurors for a civil case in Delaware. It's not common. Many states have 6, 7.
Yeah.
I think 9. Yeah, California is 9. 12 is not often for a civil case. So that was interesting of itself for me for Delaware. And then they actually sat full 12 alternates.
12 alternates?
Oh, you didn't hear that part?
No.
Yeah, the judge had sat, the parties chose.
Yes.
Sorry, I hit the table there. The judge had sat in the sense that a jury was selected of 12 jury members and 12 alternates. And so they'd completed the jury voir dire section, gotten into the actual pick.
Yes.
It was slated for about 6-week trial.
And it didn't happen.
And it was the trial that was not.
Okay, and so tell me if I have this right. We dove into this a while ago, but my understanding is this is a lawsuit between Dominion, right?
Yes,
Who is like
Fox News and Dominion Voting Systems.
It's like a voting machine company.
Correct.
And they were essentially suing Fox saying, hey, you lied about our machines on your programming, and that caused us to lose business, right? Like, I mean, that's very oversimplification, but like,
but it's a great
okay
analysis. It's a great quick summary I mean, here's where we go back to Trump. Everything in the news seems to be about Trump, but it's all relating to this. It's about the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And what Dominion Voting is saying is, look, you maligned us in the news saying that an election was stolen and we were our systems.
Yes.
Our work,
changing people's votes.
We were changing people's votes, or our systems were faulty in changing people's votes, where we incorrectly calculated that Biden was the winner.
Right.
And then you made other claims. There was another claim by Rudy Giuliani that their company had been like founded with the Mexican cartels. I mean,
you can't just say things. You can't just say things.
Right. You can't. So go back to our prior show where our theme was just stop talking.
Yes.
Because talking gets you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So there was all of this where they're saying, look, the statements that you made, you posited them as truth. Not that you just said them, but you said them as if they were true. The statements were false. Therefore, we have been defamed. Our character has been defamed. And as a company, technically, you do have a character.
Yeah.
You have a reputation as a company.
Yeah,
just as you do with a person.
I mean, and that's kind of key to their business, having an accurate counting of the votes.
Right. But you should use our systems because we're accurate. Or wait, no, now we no longer have business.
Right, okay.
We failed at the presidential nomination, so how are we going to get business?
Right. So instead of going to court and sort of duking this out in the public, they settled.
They did. There's a lot in the civil world where there's the common, settles on the courthouse step is one of the common phrases that we use. Or the midnight hour, 12th hour settlement. We call it a 12th hour settlement. Right. Or settling on the courthouse steps, because it's like a last minute settlement right before you go to court. Even I have had some where it's like at 9:00 the night before, I've got another attorney on the line saying, okay, I'm going to give you this much money. Okay, let me call my client.
Yeah.
And in the morning we appear at court saying, Judge, we've settled the case. But it is rare to actually settle it like after the jury's already saw it.
That is, and the thing is, up until that point, it's kind of playing chicken, right? Like when you have this,
who's gonna blink? Yeah,
right. Like it's kind of trial strategy. Is like, well, I'll take this to trial. Okay, well, we'll take this to trial, and it's sort of like, maybe you do, maybe like you truly feel you have the best case, and sure, let's put it in front of and let people decide. I think you just have both sides sort of playing that, like who's gonna, like you said, who's gonna blink first? Like we're gonna play chicken. What it makes me think, just speculative. Maybe they didn't want that playing out in front of everybody.
Yeah, I think as
they did the calculus there of like, does this do more harm overall to us or good overall to us to play this out in a trial?
And it was for both sides. And this is, for me, as a trial attorney, and especially as a plaintiff's attorney, I am looking at this saying, Dominion should have fought it.
Right?
They should not have settled. It was not, to me, it's not in their best interest to have settled.
Right.
Bring this through the courts. Let it all play out. Do all 6 excruciating weeks so that everyone knows. That would be my perspective as a trial attorney.
Right.
But.
Okay, what's the but there? Because this is my thought too. In my mind, for what we know, which, again, you can go watch any of the things that were said on Fox News. They're not hidden. Seemed pretty clear to me that if I represented Dominion, I would want it to play out. And if I represented Fox, I would not. It looks kind of bad.
It looks even worse the more that it goes on. And deposition testimony has been put in the public, and other answers have been leaking out into the public through court filings and motions. It's just looking worse and worse.
So like, why is, let's get your expert opinion. Why settle?
Okay. So ultimately, as attorneys, we work for clients who don't pay us just so we can go to court. I actually tell my clients, you've heard this many times, where I say, look, I do this every day for a living.
Yeah.
I chose to be an attorney. I'm happy to go to court.
Right.
I'll go to court. I would love to go to court in your case, but it's not my decision.
Exactly.
It's your decision as to whether you want to go through with court or accept a settlement.
But that's my thing is like sort of a lot of the times, at least in like what I've seen you do, is that the reason clients choose to settle instead of going to court is usually like, I don't want to wait to go to court, which is clearly not an issue. They were there. They were literally there. The sort of strength of the case we've talked about. So like maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the play is there.
I think it's twofold.
Okay.
I think timing is part of it, is because of all of and this is a guess, this is my conjecture based on my experience, is that there was an analysis of how much time, not that it's going to take for trial, but it's going to be appealed.
Oh, of course.
Fox News isn't going to just roll over and say, okay, here's whatever the jury awarded you.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to stop. So it's taken you this long to get this far, right? It's 2020 to 2023.
Yeah.
We're finally here. Even if we win, which would be huge, they're going to appeal, which is going to take how much longer after this?
Yeah.
And what if we lose? And if, it seems stacked in their favor, it really does seem stacked in the plaintiff's favor for Dominion, but are there other facts in there that we don't know,
right,
that we haven't been able to analyze, where if those were true, well, maybe it's really awful and they shouldn't have said it, but it's not quite defamation.
Right.
And if it is defamation, how much was it actual injury that they can bring to a causation sense of, okay, my reputation was damaged, but did it really cause me any harm?
Right. You then have to get into testimony of like, well, we were going to use these machines and then we didn't. Type of.
What were your actual losses?
Right.
So to me, it must have settled by Dominion as a calculation of how much longer is this really going to be? Not just 6 weeks, but how much longer truly is this going to be before we see money? And is there a chance that we won't?
And the settlement was huge.
It was. And I think, I'm telling you, I think that's what tipped it.
That is
because it was so close to the actual number they were asking for from a jury.
I guess that makes sense.
It's not close to, like, I guess, I don't know. It seems like when we're talking millions and billions, it all seems a little short to me. But it was like 700 something. I'm trying to find the number.
It was absurdly high.
It was, they'd sued for a lot too, but I always try to have some kind of notes. And of course, I can never find the specific piece of information I'm always looking for.
It's okay. Someone is like screaming at the camera right now.
I'm sure they're like, it's this amount of money, or just keep talking.
It is.
Anyway, it was a lot amount of money.
Amount of money.
It was not as much as they had sued for. So it was like at least, it was $787.5 million.
Okay,
is the
pocket
settlement.
change. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, just a little bit. The suit, though, had been for about 1.6 billion. Okay, so it was 1.6 billion. The settlement was about 787 million. So to me, it's so close.
Yeah.
It's not quite close, I guess, but
this all feels like monopoly
large,
money.
Right, I know.
It is. Money.
It is a large settlement to be a settlement.
Yeah.
But I think that analysis was, look, we have all these attorney's fees. In the end, it comes down to money in a civil suit, right?
Right.
We still have to pay our attorneys. We're going to have to continue to pay our attorneys through all of this 6 weeks of trial.
Yeah.
We're going to have to pay multiple attorneys for all of the 6 weeks of trial at crazy amounts per hour for trial work.
And like you said, maybe it does get overturned on appeal. Weird things happen in the courts.
So in a financial analysis by a company, those are the things that they had to consider. And ultimately, Fox decided, okay, we got to cough up just a little bit more so that all of this testimony isn't put out in public for 6 weeks.
Right.
And then Dominion said, okay, maybe we take a little bit less and don't do the jury so that we get an actual amount of money in our pockets, and sooner rather than later.
I'm personally disappointed, but I understand.
No, I'm so sad. I had the public phone number
where you can listen.
Yes, it was weird because it's Delaware. They didn't allow the video cameras. They don't normally in that court. But for this one, they allowed a live telephone where you could listen in. You couldn't record, but I had that number ready to go.
And just listen. Oh, I love it.
And I couldn't use it.
Well, isn't there another lawsuit very similar? So maybe they won't settle?
Yes, there is a very similar lawsuit happening.
Twinsies.
Smartmatic.
They defamed you? Oh, me too, girl.
I need to drink on that.
But it's the same. I mean, essentially the same suit, right? You have another company saying, hey, Fox, you lied about us on the air. Let's go to court about it.
It's about the election. Yeah, it's another. Yeah, it's Smartmatic versus Fox News, and it's all about the election again. This one's in New York.
Okay.
And what a lot of experts are saying, and even the plaintiff's attorneys, they're like, it's all the same, but we're a different defendant in a different plaintiff in a different state. Like, just swap our names.
Everybody gets to have a day in court.
Yeah, and theirs is for even more. It's 2.7 or 6 billion that they've sued for. I mean, it's like $1 million more than Dominion. And they actually this last week during all of this. Oh, I have to mention this, and then we'll move on. The interesting things that were happening did lead me to believe that this was going to be an even more interesting trial. They had last-minute motions last week.
Oh, yeah.
Where the attorneys for Fox were sanctioned.
That's really bad. Like that, getting sanctioned as an attorney, it's like big yikes. It's not something that gets handed out easily.
I've only seen it 4 times in 17 years.
Right. And it has to be for like serious stuff.
Yeah. And thankfully it wasn't me. I mean, God, I lie awake at night worried I'm going to find some kind of ethical issue.
I feel like that's the dream you have when you're like, you forgot to take a test. It's like the school dream. Maybe I'm a nerd, but like the school stress dreams, right? Like when I feel like that's the equivalent for an attorney, but worse. It's like sitting in the principal's office and being like, you're expelled. Like you're not expelled. You still have your bar card, but like
not
you're
necessarily. God, it's the one worst. The one bad thing about being an attorney is the fear of having an ethics violation or a client complaint. It's terrifying. But they apparently didn't produce certain evidence during discovery that they were required to produce. And the judge basically said, look, I don't trust you. He said, I'm concerned about this. It was some kind of quote like, I may not look like I am, but I'm very concerned about this. And there's a problem. And then he spoke about possibly referring the issue to a special board that would review what the attorneys had done for Fox in this case.
I'm going to say this, and this is just something I've noticed observing the legal world. Attorneys are entrusted with a lot of things. I mean, anything from financial, privacy. Like attorneys really are, just confidants in a way that not a lot of other career fields have. Yeah. And so like getting in trouble with that stuff is so bad.
Yeah.
But what kills me is that, and we read all these cases in ethics, right? Like, I always feel bad because so many of the people who get in trouble it's not an intentional thing. Like there's so many.
That's me. That's like rules. If I fall in like an opposition to something, it's because I didn't know or like I missed something.
And it's not even like you're not knowledgeable. There are just so many very particular nitpicky rules in legal ethics. But then you have people like Rudy Giuliani, Alex Murdaugh, who are just out here for decades, willy-nilly, doing intentional things wrong, and they never get caught.
What they seem to be doing intentional things wrong. We don't want to have a defamation suit. So yes,
bring it. Let's
what
go to
appears to be willy-nilly disregard of ethics rules and regulations. Yes, that is quite terrifying and awful and angering.
Yeah, I'm so glad I picked a low stress career.
Oh my God, have you seen that TikTok with what I think he's Australian? He at least has this beautiful Australian accent. This beautiful man with a beautiful Australian accent, you know, longer hair.
Sold.
I have to find this. He's on TikTok. He has this great TikTok skit where it's, you know, he's on both sides. He's the one person and the other. So he's the attorney at the desk and he's the new attorney or like the new hire on the other side of the desk. And he's going through all of these questions of, okay, what's the thing you get the most from law school? Stress. What's the thing you'll get the most during your real job? Stress. And he's going through all of these questions. Like, what would you do for here? And all of it's like, I've just signed up for a lifetime of stress.
It's
like,
true.
That's it. And it's the funniest thing if you can find it.
We'll have to find it. The one I saw that I was thinking was actually also on TikTok. And it's like, I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. I went to law school so I could work 24/7.
That's a good one.
I mean, I thought it was cute. I thought it was super funny. And I was like, yeah.
That's really funny. That's cute. So anyway, yeah, these attorneys have been sanctioned. And
also, it's like so embarrassing. Like,
right?
I would also like public shame. Like, it's
just
embarrassing.
Die, right? You just want to crawl under a rock and die. No thanks. I'll just not come back.
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't seem to care as much, but we do.
I would be embarrassed. Like, I feel like I'm very hard to embarrass, but something like that would be very embarrassing.
Yeah. And, you know, they were actually sanctioned so much that they were told, because you didn't turn this stuff over, the plaintiff, Dominion, now has the right to review it. You have to turn it over. And if they want to do a new deposition, you have to do it and you have to pay for it.
Good.
So it doesn't look like they did a new deposition, or if they did, it was like sometime on the weekend. But now the New York case, the plaintiffs over there are saying, hey, can we have that? Because they're saying it's the same case. It's all the same behavior that we've cited that the defendants have done wrong. So all of that information we should have access to.
So could Dominion's team give it to them if they wanted?
Potentially. It depends on the agreements they have for confidentiality.
So they might have had essentially what would equate to an NDA as part of the settlement agreement.
Correct. The non-disclosure.
Interesting.
So it depends on the limitations during discovery as to who would have access.
Yes.
Outside of the attorneys and also the settlement agreement. But there is a possibility that a judge could order that the documents be provided from the one case to the other, not necessarily to the public, but at least between the cases to be analyzed and reviewed.
It's relevant. Interesting. Well, we'll stay tuned for that one.
Stay tuned, and now we've got less than 30 minutes for abortion.
Oh yeah, casual. Well, this is my hot topic. Look, I've been waiting.
I'm gonna drink again.
My upper level writing requirement is about the Dobbs decision and a lot of other things. But
for those who don't know, say what the Dobbs opinion is.
Overturn Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, and that was last year.
Yes, you can just read my face to see how I feel about that one. However, what we're talking about now is different.
It's not Roe versus Wade. It's not Dobbs. We're not actually talking about abortion, so to speak.
This gets into a weird procedural thing, so I will clarify. Dobbs did not make abortion illegal. Dobbs said, we, the Supreme Court, are done talking about abortion. It's up to the states.
Right.
Which, okay, federalism. But
yeah,
what has now happened, so we're going to start, so shockingly, in Texas. So we're in a federal court.
No. Really?
I know.
Is that where it would be? Are you sure? It's another state, right?
Never Texas. So throw on your cowboy boots and let's go down to Texas. So we are in federal court. We essentially have, the plaintiffs are a group of medical professionals who, to be clear, do not provide abortion services. However, they have filed a lawsuit essentially claiming, to sum it up, that they are impacted because doctors who prescribe, and we're talking about medicated abortion, so misoprostol, I think is right.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
It is
the abortion pill.
Yes.
Is how it's being described in the news. Is basically it's being prescribed where you can take it up to 7 weeks after pregnancy, or insemination is like up to 7 weeks. Then it was approved later by the FDA to 10 weeks.
Yes. So the original was 2000. Then we had 2016. So you have this group of providers saying the fact that other doctors are prescribing this, which again has been approved by the FDA for a couple decades now, damages us because some of their patients might have severe adverse reactions and then seek care from us for these adverse reactions, burdening the medical system. Which is absurd because if that was the case, it would be burdened already. This pill has been out for 20-something years, right? However, they were very selective. We've talked about jurisdiction and venue, and they picked a judge who is adamantly pro-life.
I don't know if they picked the judge or at least the jurisdiction. Because there's ways you're not supposed to have court or judge selection, but there are ways to
I think they were
better
creative.
ensure that you're in a specific jurisdiction or a specific judge. There's calendaring of you just happen to only be available on a Wednesday, or there are ways around it. You're not supposed to.
I say picked kind of in that way, not that they were like, "Hey, you are taking this case," but kind of they were very careful.
They were very selective.
Very selective. So this judge agrees with them. We're going to start there. Okay. What is the first issue that comes to your mind when you hear this?
Standing.
Right. You have to bring a claim, you have to be an injured party. You have to have some stake in the game. I think their connection to this issue is tenuous at best.
And not even that. It's you're saying words like may, possible. It has to be imminent.
Right.
It can't be a possible infringement or damage. It has to be an imminent.
Right.
Like it is going to happen if you, judge, don't stop it with an injunction.
Exactly.
So it may, is it mass issues? In my mind, if I didn't know the others, it would seem to me, knowing constitutional law, it would seem to me that based on standing, then these people better have evidence that these drugs are causing adverse reaction and significant and
that they are
substantial numbers.
The patients from those. That would also be the thing because they own their own medical practices. Mm-hmm. So even if there were these adverse reactions, which there are occasional, you can go pull up the FDA reports on them, but it's not. They're called rare adverse reactions for a
this
reason.
Isn't something like COVID that's so common that we're talking about it on the news.
People have rare adverse reactions to Tylenol. So there's that. Judge agrees with them. Whatever. But you can't tell my personal opinions on this at all. However, in his order, he says, FDA, you need to stop distribution of this drug completely.
Now.
Which sounds a little strange if you know anything. We have 3 branches of government, guys. Okay.
This is good. This is what we're talking about. Yeah.
Truly. So this is where it kind of gets away from the whole issue of abortion to this is a separation of powers issue. So essentially you have the FDA, which is an agency. And so you have agency laws, and
it's a federal agency.
It's an
agency. It's usually an administrative issue.
Yes, who answers to Congress, which is our legislative. So now you have a federal court judge down in Texas saying, I can tell the FDA what to do. Yikes.
Yeah.
But I will also say you also had a federal court judge in Washington State give an equal and opposite injunction at the same time saying, FDA, you cannot stop your current practices. Both of these are absurd in my opinion. That's not within your purview.
Right. Anybody can order the FDA to do anything except Congress.
That's my understanding of how the three branches of government work. And that seems to be the issue. Like, you can't do that. Because if this were upheld, in my opinion, that would mean anything the FDA has ever authorized, approved for use. Now you can just have a judge say...
Any federal judge that wants to says, no, FDA has to stop doing that.
Right.
How many medications
right.
and medical devices
and
are out there?
Right. It gives a weird twist on like administrative law that you could now have this, what I think is a severe overreach of power. So where are we at today? As of this week, so the Texas opinion was appealed up to the Fifth Circuit. And the Fifth Circuit said, whoa. We can't ban it starting in the original approval, which was 2000, because there's a timeliness issue. Mm-hmm. But the 2016 increase that we talked about for additional weeks, we can do that. So that's where that one is. Now, the FDA and the Justice Department said, hey, Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And just like that, Supreme Court is wrote back into abortion.
Mm-hmm. So it is sitting with the Supreme Court right now. They were supposed to decide something yesterday or Wednesday. Whatever. Yeah. Whatever the days are. Wednesday. And then that got pushed.
They said, hey, we need more time.
So it's tonight, Friday, at midnight. Like, not even like close of business. Like, not even during happy hour.
That is so drama queenish. Being like,
midnight. That's like when everybody stay tuned.
That's like dropping a new album. Stay tuned at midnight. See what I'm releasing. Like, come on, just put it out in normal business hours.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is if they do put it out at midnight, like, what are people gonna do over the weekend?
Yeah.
So dramatically, yes, the Supreme Court is going to do something with it at midnight or have it published at midnight. And I think the biggest questions surrounding this are going to be whether they accept it fully and rule on all of the merits.
Right.
Whether they reject it.
Because there's no standing.
For lack of standing. Or whether they issue some kind of guidance opinion. They're not supposed to issue advisory opinions. As the Supreme Court, they're not supposed to. But there are ways with, like, they can offer opinions as to here's why we're rejecting
Here's
it.
Just some dicta about my thoughts about it.
Yeah, so we're not accepting it for lack of standing, but if we were.
No, exactly. If we were.
So there would be like concurring and dissenting opinions. So there's possibilities here that there may be some constitutional law pieces that could be grabbed onto where instead of just rejecting for lack of standing, which they might very well have the possibility to do, where they may be able to say, okay, well, the plaintiff's doctors didn't initially have standing, but maybe the federal organization does have standing. I don't know. It's supposed to be the original complaint. It's supposed to be based not on when it gets to the Supreme Court, but when it started. Yes. And that's when standing is supposed to be looked at, is when the original case started, what is the standing of those parties, not what is the standing of the FDA when it gets to the Supreme Court. So I don't know.
I'm also, what is somewhat interesting too, is actually part of what Kavanaugh wrote in part of the decision with Dobbs was that he was very clear about the judiciary needs to get out of this issue. So then you have this. I mean, just my take, I don't think the Supreme Court wants to be embroiled in this anymore.
Yeah, I think it does seem like the Dobbs decision was their way to say states deal with it.
And state legislatures, not judges, I think. For the most part, it's not really, we have some judicial activism here, which is kind of like just making things up. Like
making law from the bench instead of through Congress.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the idea of there's this branches of government for a reason, is the rule makers are supposed to be Congress. But the president is not supposed to be a rule maker, but he has executive orders, which seem to be rules.
And then The judges are supposed to be the referees. Does this violate the rules or not? Is the only question they're supposed to answer.
Judges seem to create rules out of fake privacy laws that may or may not exist. And I'm not just saying that for abortion. It's a thing.
What do you mean? It doesn't say privacy in the Constitution, Virginia? This is news to me.
There is not an actual constitutional provision or amendment that says privacy anywhere in it.
No, we just, like, it was like 100 years ago or so. We just read it in there and then based all of our laws off of it. So
it was put in there as some kind of possible due process right. But yeah, so that's like how much are these governmental entities bleeding into each other with the checks and balances? They're supposed to be distinct checks and balances of each other, of this is the governing power, this is the rule power, this is the review power. Like, these are supposed to be the separate, but each of them is taking a little bit of the others, or at the very least, the executive and judiciary tend to take a little bit of the legislative out of it. It is very hard for me to see. I'm trying not to say too many personal opinions, but it is hard for me to understand Congress's role anymore. I know we have a lot of congressmen and women, and persons, but it is hard for me to see what they do much anymore, because it does seem to be that the president and the Supreme Court seem to be taking a lot of rulemaking power.
And I think a lot of the rules that are produced by Congress are so poorly written that they're useless. I will say, like, you know, like anything they are
State,
passing,
federal, much of it
it's
seems
just so poorly written.
Well, there's all of the additives of we'll put this spending thing in there. And
I've done some research project. I'm thinking about that one Wisconsin case, and I had to read the statutes of this case. It was for that self-defense claim. And it was like a 5-word sentence, and that was it. That was the only thing the statute said about something. And then created all of these legal issues because it was so poorly written and so vague.
Vagueness.
I was like, what does this mean? You guys wrote it, you passed it. What does that mean?
Right. Should it be thrown out for vagueness? Yeah. Lots of fun constitutional law words and topics today.
We'll stay posted, though, because this I'm following, because clearly
we're going to see what
Virginia's trying to be neutral. I'm not. I have a lot of feelings about this. I have a lot of feelings about the Supreme Court decisions. I think it's very interesting to see what's happening within states. I think that's where a lot of controversy is going to come. This, to me, is not even like, I feel like I keep saying this about a lot of the issues we talk about. Like, it's not salacious. This is like is this in their purview?
Right. And
it's not even like an issue of abortion. It's like
these Trump cases aren't necessarily Trump. The actual questions are not as salacious as Trump.
Exactly.
It's the same thing here.
This is like a
it's an abortion case. Well, sort of.
But it's more of like, is this judge allowed to do that?
Right. It's more a question of agency, administration, and federalism.
Because there's a whole lot of...
And standing.
Yeah, agency and admin law, administrative law. Like, there is tons of it. I took one semester of that, of public law. Not my vibe. It was really boring. It's a lot of, like, regulations.
Right.
Like, they have to send a lot of memos out. Not my vibe, clearly. But that's what we're talking about. That's what this is going to be.
Yeah. If you don't know and have never heard these words that we're using, then that's how boring this is.
No, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, everyone's like, oh, it's abortion and abortion pills.
It's like,
yes,
it is,
but
kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, my hot take is that because you have 2 equally ranked judges giving opposite and contradictory orders, that puts the FDA in a weird position either way. They can't follow one without, like, disobeying the other.
Right, because they're both federal courts with equal standing.
I mean, I guess my take is they're going to say, hey, just to clarify, federal judges don't get to boss the FDA around.
Right.
That's what I think will probably happen.
I agree. I think there's going to be some kind of ruling or statements.
Yeah,
or
I don't know how they're going to do
how
it.
It's going to be phrased, I do not know. But I feel that there is going to be some kind of discussion about whether this can happen or be made to happen against the FDA, or if it's a rejection of this is Congress's purview.
Right, because if Congress had issued something to the FDA instructing them to do this, we would be having a different conversation.
Absolutely.
Because that's who the FDA answers to, is Congress. In theory, they don't answer to a judge.
Yeah.
We'll see if the Supreme Court agrees with my analysis.
Yeah, we're gonna see. I wish I had all of the specific ways and means. We know enough about constitutional law to be a little
to know that this is a mess. To know this is a mess. I think it's really bold. I mean, clearly me and this judge don't get along, but that's a bold move to just say, screw separation of powers. I'm going to do what I want. FDA, listen to me. Bold.
Right. I mean, that's the question is what's next? Is they're going to, make rules? They're going to start issuing rulings against the DOJ?
Well, okay.
They're going to issue a rule against the president? I mean, seriously. This is where we're cascading of if you can issue, if a judge, any judge across the country, federally, can tell a federal administration, power, agency, company, organization, whatever you want to call them, how to operate or what not to do, then we're going to go into absolute standstill because nobody's going to be allowed to do anything.
I think it'll create a mess. I also think what gets lost in this is like, this impacts real people because the FDA gets scared that they're going to get in trouble essentially. And so they just pause.
Right. We won't approve any drug.
The Supreme Court says we need a couple more days to think this over. And in the meantime, what happened, right? So right now it's a drug that is more controversial, has to do with abortion.
Yes.
But what if next time it's insulin? Or something
we think that insulin has too many side effects. We think that this particular brand.
People have adverse reactions to it. So I think that's scary to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to fear monger, but to me that is very concerning. The idea that they could just do that.
Right. If you take the word abortion out of it and say pill or medicine, just pill or medicine that does whatever it is.
Right. An FDA approved treatment.
It is an FDA approved drug that's been approved for decades. If the FDA can be told by a federal court, you can't use that drug, distribute that drug, approve that drug. We're just going to yank it because we don't think
you approved it correctly.
Right.
Even though you employ scientists and healthcare workers and, follow the regulations Congress has put in place for testing. You did all of those things. We just don't like it.
Right. And then there gets to be the question of personal choice.
Right, which I think is the overwhelming.
Take out abortion. Yep. Okay, we're going to put aside the name abortion and then we're going to conclude here. We're going to take out the word abortion and we're going to put in my issues, right? Yeah. Okay, so I have significant nerve issues, nerve damage. I wear these shirts because of scarring that I have.
Right.
If someone were to say, we're taking Lyrica off.
Right.
Okay. And I looked at it and I said, wow, I really need that nerve drug.
Right.
Because in order to get through my days and function, I have need of that drug.
You and your healthcare team work together to come up with a care plan that suits you, that addresses the issues that your team knows about.
Right.
They have the medical licensing to write prescriptions. They did that, and just the thought that someone who has no background in medicine could say, I don't think so.
Right. That
there's
I
an
can't
opioid
have that
crisis.
drug.
There's whatever, and just pull whatever off the market seems asinine to me.
Right. I mean, I can't imagine. And yes, I am choosing to take it because it's not needed for my life. Right. I don't have to have it to continue with my life, but to get through regular functioning through the day without being in excruciating pain, that seems to be the way to go for me. So yes, I am making a personal decision to take this drug that was suggested to me, advised to me by my physician. And if someone ended up saying, some federal judge said, we think that drug is too risky, let me know, put warnings on it, right? This is why the FDA has warnings and labels. Yep. Put a warning on it. Put a label on it. Let me decide if I want to risk these choices.
Right. I mean, I'm on ADHD medication too, which, they have been cracking down on, which just makes my life more difficult. The truth is, I'm prescribed. I've been on it for years, and all it does is make it harder for me, and then I don't refill my meds for 2 weeks. They're like, you have to come to an appointment all the time. Why? I've been on the same dosage for forever. So even things
Just
like
refill
that.
it.
And just the thought that one judge on a whim, we're humans, right? Judges are humans too. We agree with some, we don't agree with some, but just the idea, the principle that one person could say, nope, is concerning to me. I think if you think we should have separation of powers, if you think we should have, big separation, this is an issue. I would be concerned. I don't know anybody who wouldn't be concerned. This is a huge point of judicial activism.
Yeah.
So even if you necessarily agree with the opinion, I'd be concerned about the process personally.
Yeah. Take the words abortion pills out of it and look at it overall. And that to me is the bigger question that's before us rather than a right to life or a right to choose.
Yeah. And so let's just cross our fingers that the Supreme Court says, you'll have lost your minds.
Well, we're going to see. Stay tuned. We are not going to do it next week. We are going to be off next week, right? Everybody. So we're taking a pause. We have places to be and things to do that
Fun stuff,
are,
good stuff.
graduation related right into the year. Chelsey has finished school.
Be seeing Taylor Swift. I'm going to scream.
She's going to go see the concert, which is amazing.
Eras tour, so pumped. I'm going to be, you just don't even know.
I don't, but I'm so glad for you. So you're going to be off doing that. I'm going to go to Williamsburg and see my law school and my family and hopefully some friends. So we're going to travel next week. Enjoy. We will see what happens within the next 2 weeks for the hot legal topics. We will probably have to limit ourselves even more. So stay tuned. Watch those rulings, watch for Smartmatic and what the judge does, watch for the Supreme Court decision, and we will catch you back next time. Like, subscribe so that it comes back up in your feed so you can see the next ones and what happens with the week's hottest news. I'm Virginia Tehrani.
And I'm Chelsey Rogers.
We're with Tehrani Law, LLC, because you never need a lawyer
Till you do.